Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries about partnerships and channel on a weekly basis. My name's Alex Whitford. I'm the VP of Revenue here at Chanext, and this week I'm very excited to welcome our special guest, Greg. How are you doing?
Very well, sir. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm excited to get into this one. I think your story and your business is a really interesting one in the context of how lots of vendors go through the channel, and how Data and Kaseya go through the channel. I think it's going to be a really great one to unpick.
Good. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Maybe we can start with a little bit of a rundown of who you are and where you've come from.
Yeah, sure. My name's Greg Jones. I'm Senior Vice President here at Kaseya, looking after our enablement team, really. So that's everything, I guess, away from products and services, which might sound a little bit odd from a vendor, but more about how we help and support partners grow and scale their MSP business, really. I've been in the industry 25 years now, been with Kaseya around about 6 years. Before that, I was on the MSP side of the fence for about 10 years, and then local and central government in IT. So a bit of experience there, only a little.
Just a touch. It's funny because obviously I think when you hear most people talking about sort of senior leader within a channel business, it's, hey, we're going to talk about revenue and we're going to talk about sales strategies. But I find MSP sort of fascinating because MSPs know how to service customers very well, but they sometimes struggle to generate the level of demand that they need, or they to do this sort of the core sales and marketing functions, which I know is what you spend a lot of time helping MSPs go to market effectively, which is almost the channel in reverse, right? Lots of people end up spending all their time talking about products. Why do you think MSPs, or what's the sort of vision behind your strategy in terms of prioritizing helping MSPs go to market as opposed to evangelizing why your technology is so great?
Yeah, I think, you know, for all vendors, if you just lead with tech, it doesn't solve the biggest challenges. Ultimately, if we get down to the heart of it, nobody's looking to buy tech. They're looking for the outcomes of the tech. And ultimately, all vendors have great technology, or they wouldn't be in business. But for us, it's about much more than that, is looking at the channel holistically and saying, okay, how can we truly empower partners? Now, that's not just for the love of God. It is also to help us, obviously, because we're in business. There's a direct correlation with our MSP partners' success and our success. About 98% of our business is through the MSP channel. That's everything to us, and we remain loyal to that. However, if you look at all of the data out there from all vendors and all of the large data houses like Canalys, IDC, and Gartner, it is that in the top 5 issues, concerns, what's keeping MSPs up of a night, it is around sales and marketing, how to generate new MRR, monthly recurring revenue, ARR, annual recurring revenue into their business. And that's very interesting. We see it much more in this vertical as opposed to other verticals. And the reason for that is a lot of MSP owners, business owners, and management teams are very technical people. Usually they got into business by accident in a lot of cases. You know, they started fixing a few things for somebody, helped here with a charge here, and the next minute they're in business. And sales and marketing is so kind of, the team hate me saying this, but fluffy and creative. And it's very much away from core MSP, day-to-day 101 business. But it's so important, and that's really why we lean into it so much, because it's everything to us.
Yeah, it is funny, right? Because you sort of open up and it sounds obvious. Yeah, I see so many senior leaders stray away from it, which is meet the partner where they are, right? And It's like, hey, we're not investing in really, to use your terminology, fluffy brand campaigns. It's like, no, we're struggling to upsell effectively. How can you help us do that? And it's like, oh, well, we could build a marketing campaign or do some sales functions to help support you to the upsell from one product set to 2 product sets within your existing base, which is where the MSP really needs the help, right? And it's that core understanding. I know you manage a substantial MDF pot across your region. I'd love to understand some of the strategies that you think you've seen work well, where partners have actually spent that MDF effectively, because I know it is a core bugbear of lots of people within the distribution and vendor space that, hey, partners ask for MDF and maybe it's not the greatest ROI, not tracked most effectively, doesn't really generate any returns. Talk to me about what you see working well.
Yeah, so for us, we're all about tracking at Kaseya and looking at truly the millions of dollars that we invest. Is it having an impact? And MDF gives the biggest ROI in terms of return investment for not only Kaseya but also our MSP partners. And we track it year over year, but also we break it down in terms of in-person events, digital campaigns, really look at what is working in certain geographical locations, how is it having an impact, and does it make sense really? So we totally scrapped our MDF program and really built it from the ground up, not from a Kaseya standpoint of view, but from an MSP focus. What are the things that they really need from a program? Well, they need it to be able to be accessible, really easy. They need help and support on that journey, because many of the MSPs have either never run a webinar, never run an in-person event, are not au fait with large marketing campaigns, or this is outside of the norm or their comfort zone. So we redesigned it. It's really easy to access. It's one page of A4 paper, some information that we ask, which really is making sure we have a business case for the MDF request that comes in. And then I have a panel of people, I think there's about 5 or 6 people on that panel now, who review every single MDF request each week. And all they're looking for is, does this make sense? Is this going to add value to our MSP partners? Because if I'm being totally honest, we can afford to say yes to something and have a loss, because we've got quite deep pockets, as you can imagine, but for us, it's about protecting our partners. So when we're vetting out whether it's a yes or a no, we're actually looking at it from the MSP lens. Does this make sense? Is their money protective? Are they going to get an ROI? Because our program is match funded 50-50. So if they put a pound, a dollar, a euro, whatever it might be, we're going to match it with exactly the same, so that both parties have got skin in the game. And that for us is key. We can help them with speakers as well. So it's not just a financial incentive. Some MSPs are actually looking for not necessarily the money, but we're not comfortable speaking in person. We've never run an event. Can you help us execute? What strategies work well? What agendas? So we help with the full package around that, really.
Again, meeting the partner where they are, right? Because I think one of the things MDF, outside maybe of the MSP world, more when we get into sort of the legacy reseller model, it's
Yep.
the people who spend the most MDF are the very largest partners who have huge dedicated marketing teams, right? And so they understand how to run events and webinars brilliantly. They do. Sometimes they do them even better than vendors do. But you've built your entire strategy not just around, hey, here's some money. It's also, where do we meet you? Whereas most MSPs don't have a huge 30-man marketing team who really understand the game. And so it's the stuff around that program that I can imagine drives the real tight sort of engagement between yourselves and the MSPs.
Yeah, absolutely. And this year has been really interesting. What we've seen, or say this year, last year's data, I should say, is the largest ROI in terms of multiple of spend that we spent out getting back in was from the smaller spend. So our sweet spot for the perfect ROI is between about $1,000 and $2,500. That is perfect. And a lot at the moment, believe it or not, which if you ask me away from the data, I would say that's just untrue. It's webinars that are actually working. If you're anything like me, you're absolutely sick of webinars, but that is what is delivering a ridiculous ROI at the moment. And also as well, you don't have to spend big money to have a successful event, webinar, campaign. Start small.
Yeah, it's funny. You sort of say I'm sick of webinars. I had a 2.5 hour conversation with my father-in-law yesterday around what the hell ChatGPT is. And I think because we're so in our ecosystem, right? We're so in the echo chamber that we're like, well, I get 17 requests to join a webinar every week. I'm bored of these. But if you think about the average MSP, who they're selling to, how ingrained in the echo chamber they are. They don't spend all their day joining security webinars and understanding
Yeah.
what AI is going to do to the market. And so that sort of last mile information to the average consumer is actually really relevant, right? And so sometimes we get sick of the stuff that's actually most important because we hear it actually too much. But the average accountancy firm in Lancashire
Yep.
knows nothing about it, right? They don't sit there listening and breathing the data. So I think it is not just where do you meet the MSP, but where do you meet the end customer?
Yeah, I think that's really key what you touch on there, but also as well the type of content. There was a direct correlation with a spike in ROI numbers with how we changed the data that we were presenting on those calls. So it is absolutely not about Kaseya or Datto, and it shouldn't be about any of your other vendors, because the end customer is not interested who you use in your stack. They just want that business outcome. So a lot of the data and the presentations are around thought leadership. This is what the landscape is, this is what the data is showing, and this is how Mr. X MSP or Mrs. X MSP is doing to protect your organization. So they go hand in hand, and we do see regional nuances to that data as well, where we have to shift it very slightly. But yeah, it's very interesting, very interesting.
So I know that you guys run one of the sort of most successful sort of marketing programs of any vendor that I speak to, and I speak to a fair few. I think the thing that you're saying there that maybe for our senior executives who listen to the podcast, maybe question is you're saying you literally pay partners to do marketing that doesn't include your brand, and that is great ROI.
Absolutely. You should not be leading with our brand. You absolutely shouldn't, unless that is your thing. But even on your website, when a customer comes on your website, they're not interested who you partner with, and they don't care about Kaseya or Datto. We don't need the brand recognition because our market is through MSPs. We don't deal direct. So yeah, absolutely. We are not about pitching Kaseya and Datto or any of our brands, products and services. We know by just helping you get a new customer, we will get that organic growth because we're going to be in your tech stack somewhere. We have over 45 different products, services, business lines now that we offer. So we understand you can't just be pitching this, and this. It just doesn't work,
And so really you're helping MSPs take sort of outcome messaging or problem messaging to market and then just generating that demand, understanding that the ROI is on the back end, right? Once the
Yeah.
revenue is actually delivered, which I think is a very forward thinking view on marketing, because most people in their partner program, it is quite literally written, if it doesn't contain our logo, doesn't contain our messaging, or if it contains another competitor, we're not paying. And you've flipped that completely on its head to say, rip all of that information out. What we care about is making you successful. And inherently you understand that if the partner's successful, you're successful, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's been key for us, in terms of our dominance in the marketplace, really. We don't get everything right at Kaseya, far from it. We drop the ball far more than we would like, or than we should. We're transacting with over 47,000 MSPs across the globe now. And what I can tell you from that is the fastest growing MSPs are not the cleverest MSPs or even the biggest MSPs. It's the ones that solely focus on sales and marketing, the right data. I do consultancy with hundreds of MSPs, and the amount of time that I hear, oh, we're not focusing on sales and marketing, or we're not doing events at the moment because we want to get our service delivery right and get everything perfect. Well, let me tell you, you're never going to get there. There is no holy grail of MSP. I've worked with thousands and thousands of MSPs, and I've never ever seen a perfect one. There's always work to do, but start today. And what we done when we made that move as well is we start a lower level, meaning we look at what the data is saying for the SMBs and SMEs, using the likes of, again, Canalys, IDC, Gartner, to say, okay, what are the hot topics in the SMB, SME world? Where is the flow going of demand, but also money, and then we reverse engineer it in terms of the content and webinars for partners, so that then our partners are not going against the grain. If the flow of data is going this way, why build a webinar about thought leadership that's going that way? This is not rocket science. Let's just go with the market, and it's proved phenomenal results for us, literally phenomenal results.
You spoke about seeing the greatest ROI on fairly low spend sort of MDF activities. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of data suggest is that the very largest partners, where you actually see worse ROI typically from a programmatic level, both from a vendor perspective, because you have to pay a lot more people, right? Sales and marketing people who are involved in those accounts, but also because maybe there's some level of sort of saturation in terms of marketing lots of different vendors with lots of different messaging, and maybe those end users are sort of at capacity. We're seeing lots of data both from Canalys and Gartner around actually SMB ROI for marketing is exceptionally strong. You're also seeing that do you also see that in your market, where actually marketing to the sort of 50 FTE company, 100 FTE company, you actually see very good ROI in terms of that spend?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, we're about tracking all the time, so we're constantly tracking. And you're right, marketing much larger in terms of the enterprise is not getting as good a results as the SMB, SME world, but also as well on our MDF. I've put a few caveats in terms of limits that now need approval, because the larger events are just not given the ROI. Yeah. And for me, it's economics of the madhouse. Do I help one partner with a very large event that I know is not going to deliver a huge ROI? Yeah, it might be a great experience for the people attending the event, an F1 or a golf day, but why don't I use that spend across another 15 partners, splitting that money up, and deliver a fantastic ROI for them, because that's what it's about, really.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about in our prep call around sort of MSP, ICP classification. That's too many acronyms, but getting MSPs to really understand who they are selling to, and a bit to sort of continue your analogy, over-indexing on F1, although it's a great experience, obviously. Yep. Instead, it's like, well, we understand that there's this MSP who sells in this geography and really cares about finance and manufacturing, for the sake of argument. It's quite easy to build a very small cost campaign that's very, very targeted if you have that data. How do you encourage MSPs to get really specific about who they are selling to?
Yeah, so that is key, basically. We also have an MSP peer group called True Peer, and ultimately we have about 900 partners globally in that. If we look at the EMEA or the UKI, there's probably about 100, 120 MSPs in that. And it's about helping them solely with their business, increase their business operational maturity, increase their revenue, increase their profitability, doing more with less and all of that. And we do a huge piece of work in there where we start at the beginning. Most times when I say to an MSP or a business, hey, what's your target customer profile? They give me surface level things. And what I mean by that is they're going to tell me things like, well, it's this vertical or industry, it's manufacturing. They have this many employees, 200 or 50 employees, geographically located in this space. They're profitable. This is roughly their turnover. And I say, okay, that's great. And it's super important, some of that data. But we need to get under the hood further again and look at what they're really looking for. Is that stuff kind of doesn't matter too much. What they're actually looking for is the behavior and characteristics of those businesses. And what I mean by that is what we're trying to weed out is lifestyle businesses. If you are a lifestyle business and you are the CEO of a lifestyle business, your primary job is to protect your revenue streams and your expenditure, because it's a lifestyle business, and the more you spend, the less to provide for the lifestyle, theoretically. Whereas a business that is looking to grow and have hopes, aspirations, dreams, or a business plan, they're the ones that are in the mindset of, I need to spend to grow. Spending within my business is going to empower me. And a lot of MSPs, the ones who are being really successful, are finding those clients and then saying to them, hey, after looking at your business, this is where you're at here with technology. This is where you've told me you want to get to as a leadership team or a business plan or a certain number. We've got a delta now between point A and point B where you want to get to. What we do as Mr. MSP is we give you a blueprint to drive that change. To get from point A to point B is our job as a managed service provider, to enable and facilitate that growth. So, yeah, we got off track a little bit there, but I think it's really important to understand why we really need a target customer profile.
That's perfect. I have one final one for you. You seem to be playing the game very differently, right? Really trying to meet MSPs where they are, really agnostic of your own brand and preferences, really helping them as consultants, either programmatically or literally one-on-one, helping them grow. A lot of the executives who listen to this podcast will say, okay, but so what, right? Like, what does that really buy you? I imagine partner loyalty is extremely high as a result of the sort of program and incentives that you drive. Talk to me about the outcomes. Give me the cynical reason why building your program this way is so beneficial.
For us, it's about everything. I mentioned earlier on today's call, look, we're in business, we're a very profitable business. If you look at last year, we grew 16% organically on 1.5 billion, with an adjusted EBITDA of 38%. It's an incredible business, that. Now, that's not a muscle flex from Kaseya and, how great are we? That's a huge thank you to the MSP community, because quite frankly, we are literally nothing without the MSP community. We're a company with some great products. We don't have a go-to-market route without MSPs, because MSPs are everything to us. So for us, taking a different look at how we build programs and around empowerment and enablement is absolutely key. Yes, it's about business. If we help and empower our partners, they're going to grow and scale. And I mentioned before, there's a direct correlation with an MSP success and our success if we're part of that program. So that's why we've done it, really. And we see phenomenal loyalty rates, engagement, certainly around MDF and the likes. Once somebody tries it and sees the results, they keep coming back and back. But, we're like every other vendor. We don't get everything right all the time. Do we have issues? Absolutely. Do we drop the ball more than we should? Absolutely. As a leadership team, I can tell you our core focus is all about bringing enterprise-grade technology down to support MSPs, but it's also to be a true strategic partner. Every vendor says that, but what does that mean? And our programs, like my department, we have over 75 staff in that department. None of them carry a quota. They're not quota bearing. They're not pushing sales. The MSP enablement team is solely there to enable growth and facilitate MSPs increasing their business operational maturity levels in whatever way. Sales and marketing, our MDF, whether it be our True Peer program, which is peer group for MSP. It's the fastest growing in the industry. That for us is key, because if we get that right, everything else will follow,
Awesome, Greg. That's it is great to hear what I think is a fundamentally sound reasoning from a cynical reason as to why you should build your program this way. I think the other bit that I know you share is, I think it's just also more fun, right? We get in front of MSPs, helping them grow, having business decisions, having business discussions, helping people be successful. And as a result, you actually build this entirely different go-to-market, which is fundamentally profitable, hugely scalable, and really is helping solve customer and MSP challenges, which is awesome.
Yeah, and we can also as well share around best practice, what is working well, not from our point of view, but what's working well for other MSPs. How are they packaging, bundling, pricing? Where are they seeing the best margins, whether that be around security or compliance as a service, and help other partners challenge the status quo in business. Because if we keep doing the same, thing and expecting a different result, I think they call that insanity. But, we need to innovate, because SMBs and SMEs, the requirement from them for IT support and services from MSPs is changing. That's why we're seeing it being the number one reason an SMB or an SME will leave an MSP is they don't offer the service or products that they need to empower their business, So it's very interesting.
Perfect. You've built an entire business around consulting for MSPs, but we also ask for a bit of consultancy on this podcast. We ask our current guest to recommend our next guest. Who did you have in mind?
In that case, I think I will have to, let me think. Let's go with Rob Allen, who is the CTO over at ThreatLocker. I'm sure he will share some incredible insights.
Awesome. Rob, we're coming for you. Greg, thanks so much for sharing your insights today.
No problem. And to the MSP community, thanks for having me on. Take care.